This is the 20th season of Bass Talk Live. BTL is presented by Bass Cat Boats, Strike King Lures, Aftco, Pro Guide Batteries, Spro, Gamakatsu, The Bass Tank, Denali Rods, Beatdown Outdoors, and Sunline.
BTL coming at you.
Good afternoon, and welcome to another exciting edition of BTL Bass Talk Live, where we are going to talk about bass fishing, little long-haul trucking expedition, a little jaunt up to Minnesota this past weekend for the Crappie Chronicles and BTL St. Jude Dick Hiley Bass Classic fundraiser. Got to meet a lot of cool people up there this weekend. Highlight of my weekend was 11-year-old Owen, who listens to BTL. He came, he wanted to say hi. He had a Brandon Polinick sweatshirt on. I was talking to him. His dad was there. He had 3 under 11 and said there was a 4th at home, all super well behaved, but he was talking to me about it. He's got a 14-foot John boat, got it all rigged out. He said he fishes out of it by himself. Anyway, you want to talk? There's a lot of discussion going on in the world of bass. We'll bring our guest in today. He'll appreciate this conversation as well. The one and only, the 2024 Bass Fishing Hall of Fame inductee, along with the likes of Mike McGinnis, Skeet Reese, Alfred Williams, and Fred Arbogast, is the Z-Train, Mark Zona. Thanks for jumping on BTL. I know you've got a crazy hectic schedule. That's why we're doing it at noon. So much appreciated. And first, right off the top, before we get back to Owen, congratulations.
Thank you. I've started to comprehend. I'm stuttering now actually talking about it. I've been able to comprehend it a little bit since. It was weird because I thought I didn't know what was happening in studio when Tommy actually announced that. And I've been able to comprehend, especially the drive home, because I drive to studio. I don't like flying, and it's very, very humbling, I guess, is the best word I could use for that, for sure.
We'll circle back to the Hall of Fame. That was one of the main reasons I wanted to get you on to talk about that, a little bit of history, a little bit about what that means. But back to 11-year-old Owen. So we're at this deal. He comes up. He's got the Brandon Polinick sweatshirt on, and it's Saturday afternoon, evening. It's like 4:30. So I said, "Are you a Polinick fan?" And he's like, "Oh, dude, yeah, that's my guy."
The guy.
So I send a picture to Brandon. This just shows like how there are so many good guys in the sport, and I think you would agree. Brandon is at the top of the list as far as a representative for the sport. Everything it stands for, everything it's good for. And all of a sudden, my phone's ringing, and it's a FaceTime call from Brandon. So I said, "Owen, step outside." We're at a brewery, mind you. So I said, "Step outside." A German brewery called Giesenbräu Brewery in New Prague, Minnesota. Every screen, hockey games. So anyway, we step out, and Brandon talks to him for like 10 minutes on FaceTime, talking about the different setups that they've got, everything. He's at the weigh-in, like at the trailer and all that stuff, and just like step back, spent 10 minutes with him. Great kid. But you know what? In an era or a day and age right now where there seems like there's just so much noise, it was really cool to have such a pure moment in fishing for a kid who used social media to connect with one of his favorite anglers. I think he'd met him at a Wahi before, and then for Brandon to spend that time. So a little heartwarming moment there.
Absolutely. And what's weird is I actually use Brandon for young kids, whether you're in, grade school or high school or college. And I always use Brandon as the mold for them to look at how he is on the water, how he is off the water. And you know this, you've been in this, gosh, man, you've been in this game since you were a kid. You still are a kid, Banger.
At heart,
you are. But what's interesting is you've been in this so long. Look, anglers, their job, they throw shade at each other. That is all they do. To be honest with you, Polinick is one of those anglers. One of the very, very few anglers in covering this now for 21 years. Is one of those dudes that I've never heard a cross word about Brandon Polinick. A very high integrity, very professional. And the other thing is, and I've really grown to appreciate this throughout the years, is very open with giving his information to goons like us, and being able, we're able to pass that on to the viewer on Bassmaster Live. So a lot of respect for Brandon in many, many, many ways. I look up to Brandon in many ways.
I think he's aware of the impact he can have, especially seeing with the average age of the 9 incoming Elite Series. Ben Milliken, I believe at 32 or 34 was the oldest, and then John Garrett was 28. The rest of the 9 are all under 26, with Trey McKinney at a ripe age of, I think, 19 being the youngest. But like all those dudes, I know for a fact, there's a handful of guys that they look up to, and it's real interesting. Like it's real interesting to watch these young guys navigate the off season and then their first, and there's quite a few of them that I know have reached out to veteran anglers, which I think is, and I'm sure you've heard of this too. I don't know if any of the 9 reached out to you. I even had a couple call me and were like, what are your thoughts on like how I should go about this and some stuff with sponsor wise. So the sport is getting younger and younger, and it's weird. I mean, we are in an era where Brandon Polinick is a 10-year veteran. So that is very bizarre. Actually, I call BS on Milliken being 32 or whatever, 34. Ben Milliken looks like he's older than me, dude. Give me a break. I hear you.
He is weathered, and I'm weathered.
Yeah. Here, we'll start off with a comment. There's tons of people that are congratulating you on this. Corey Rivers said, "Congrats, Big Z. Dude has no idea who I am now, but he was such a huge influence on me as a teenager years ago at a local derby on Wawasee, Coldwater, Randall, and more. Was always such a good dude."
That's humbling. I won a lot of, fished a lot of tournaments, won a lot of tournaments on those lakes. And what's funny is I'm not a big trophy guy. Actually, I think I threw out we donated them. Actually, we donated a bunch of, I would say 150, 200 plaques a couple of years ago. But that's cool to see that, because the plaque that happened on Friday, it means a heck of a lot more than a lot of the tournament ones to me. So I'll hang on to that plaque, I guess.
I hear you. All right, so here it is on bassfishinghof.com. Updated new really cool website that everybody needs to check out. High Five Fishing Hall of Fame to welcome Arbogast, McGinnis, Reese, Williams, and Zona. Off the top, really happy to have you in, but I think it was past time for Alfred Williams to get the nod there, especially like you guys know what he's done and how influential he's been in techniques that dominated the sport and have made a number of careers. That's one. So you guys will be inducted this fall at the Wonders of Wildlife Museum. And we had Ike last year that were at this thing, and he brought quite the crew. I can only imagine you're going to bring quite the crew with you this fall when you descend upon the Wonders of Wildlife.
That is actually the only thing that really concerns me. I was up at Van Dam's store today. I was at DNR Sports Center getting some service done on my boat, and Randy Van Dam's daughter said, "Yeah, I don't know about that crew that you run with. You might want to get the actual induction done first before you bring them in public." But you know what's strange? You know what's weird? And while we were doing Bassmaster Live, it Saturday into Sunday, when I'm in game mode and calling the tournament, I did not process it, and I'm not a crier, but I woke up on yesterday morning. I was in the central Illinois driving home, and I had the boat with me, and I broke down. It was like 5:30 a.m. and I just started crying, and I don't know why. But what's funny is, and you know this, Peng, or anybody that works in the fishing industry, people tell you throughout your life, and it's all I've ever done. Whether it was fishing tournaments, selling bass boats, slinging fiberglass, into going into television, all I've had my entire life was people that told me I couldn't do it and I wasn't going to make it. Um, and what's funny is that's always pissed me off, but it's also it gives you fuel to prove those people wrong. And I still to this day, I made this comment to you years ago that and I'm being long winded about this, but I made this comment to you that in the TV business, I've always worked threatened, where I thought somebody was going to come and take it away. I've done that throughout my life. Whatever I've done, I've always worked threatened with that vibe of don't give it up. Don't. Hey, if JM told me to walk out 20 years ago, I could say that and that's what I thought would happen. I really did. I thought that would happen 20 years ago, where I could look at Karen and my boys and say, dang it, man, I commentated the Bassmaster one time. So to have done that for the years and Zona show and stuff like that, you need any Hall of Fame, doesn't matter what sport it is. I think what has made me the happiest is you need a team to get somewhere. You need a team, and I've had from the JM crew to my family and my friends, and I don't have many friends. I just never have. I'm happy for them because they pushed me so hard, so many miles, and I missed. And I'm not bitching about that. I missed a lot of my kids, 60% of their life, and I could really tell when they called me how happy they were. So that meant the world to me. But what's weird is I thought about this during the nominations. To be on that list, just to be on that list, was humbling. To even be considered, more less getting in. To be on a list with the guy that invented the hula popper it's hard. It's hard to comprehend, man. Hell, we all had those back in the day. It's very hard to comprehend to now, but
Alfred Williams is a frog guy too, so it's like.
And by the way, I followed Alfred and Williams. I mean, I used to burn out VHS, the cassettes of Bassmasters back in the 80s. They did not call it a frog. It was rat fishing. That is in the 80s. Heck, man, when Rojas came and they called it a frog, I'm like, dude, that's a rat. That was growing up. Yeah. That's what we called that. So for to get in with that, the whole group, Ski.
Yep.
Most of all, to be side by side with Mike McInnes. He's my boss. He's my business partner, and in a weird way, he gave an undrafted rookie a shot at, to me, one of the most honored seats, being the Bassmaster with Tommy Sanders. He gave me a shot at that. And I would not have, if I would have, Karen knows this, and a few other people, Van Dam knows this, I would not have felt right if I would have got in the Hall of Fame and Mike McInnes did not, for the simple fact, the reason we watch live fishing started with you and Jeffries, and McInnes grabbed, Bassmaster Live and has produced 30 classics in the weigh-ins and started FLW television. If you don't get in the Bass Fishing Hall of Fame for those accolades, you have to evidently walk on water. I mean, he's done that much for the sport. So to be next to him is, I'll go back to this word, I've said it enough. It's very, very, very humbling. It's hard to comprehend. Like I look out, Panger, I look out at the lake that I grew up on, where I would sit on a boat and ditch. I hate saying this. It took me 5 years to get a 2-year college degree, an associate's degree,
with that,
because I was constantly on a boat, and I would sit out there and be like, why am I doing this? What am I doing? Where am I going? And I almost did. I almost turned down the TV gig. I was talking with Karen about that last night, and she was the one that said, "No, you've got to go do this." And I said, "Well, I don't talk that much." And she said, "No, you do too. You really do." So I owe her probably the most. She's made me a better person because I was headed down different road before Karen.
You mentioned first a couple times, that first chance that you got in the studio with Mike there. So I have three kind of first, and I want you to answer and look back on this as a 2024 inductee into the Hall of Fame, and look back on these first moments and kind of explain what you did right or what you remember about that in hindsight now, knowing that it resulted in a Hall of Fame career. And the first one I'll go is Lake St. Clair, June 1999. We've done a show where we talked about how good you were on the water, but that was your first professional fishing tournament that you don't talk a lot about, that a lot of people don't know. I mean, you had 10 top 10s, you dominated, but that was in 99 there. So talk a little bit about, like, if 1999 first tournament there had said, dude, you are going to be inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2024. In 1999 at that tournament, if someone had said that, what would have gone through your mind in that instance?
I would have asked them if they were on drugs. Where did you get the drugs in Detroit? What are you? No. And what's funny was I was pissed off at that tournament because I really thought I was going to win that tournament. And the other side of no, I've never. Actually, that is where I met Mike McInnes. That is so weird now that I'm thinking of that.
Oh, really?
Yes, I met.
Well, yeah, because they did a bunch of FLW stuff back then.
He was a co-angler in that tournament and took second place. And I think he got bitched at for taking money from the co-anglers while producing the television.
And that's where you guys met for the first time.
We met in the weigh-in line, and I really did. I really thought I was going to win that tournament anyway. What's really bizarre, Panger, is that the I think it was 2002 or 2003 where I won Angler of the Year in the Ever Starts, and I think I tied for second in the championship. And what's funny is I look at that now, and I was so upset that I took in a 12-month span, I took 4 seconds. And I was so disappointed. And I truly believe this, and Karen believes this. If I would have won, let's say I would have won 2 of them. What's funny is I can look back on them now and know where I messed up in those tournaments. But that's what a tournament junkie does. That even two and a half decades later, you still think about the damn tournament, that what move you could. Anyway, I really believe if I would have won 1 or 2, or let's say I would have won all 4 and would have, Ray Hanselman that quad, I wouldn't be in television. It would have bled into full-time tournament. I was gonna go full-time tournament fishing anyway. Stuff was rolling good, and what was funny was my very last big tournament was an open on Champlain while we were doing Bass Center and Loudmouth Bass, and I almost won it. I guess it would have been. It was 20 years ago. Anyway, Joe Lucarelli won that tournament. I almost won that again. I think in my mind I should have won that tournament again. I drew. This is no joke. In that tournament, I drew Todd Otten because they did not have enough co-anglers, and Todd's like, and Todd, dude, he's so nice. He goes, "Oh, I got some rattle trap fish up in Missisquoi Bay," and I said, "Todd, you need to just come fishing with me for the day." And I said, we're gonna both be in the top. We're gonna be in the top 10 at the end of the day. And it was back when you would on 2D, you would drop a drop shot down on him, and he did not know what a drop shot was. And basically, it was forward facing sonar style of fishing before.
You're looking for the lasagna.
Yeah, we're looking for the lasagna, and I had a couple hundred slices of lasagna swimming around out there, and he learned really quickly. I would just keep the drop shot cocked in my hand and wait till you see the lasagna, drop it down. Well, here's how many were there, Panger. Are you ready? he was dropping a 1-ounce Carolina rig with braid to a 20-pound fluorocarbon leader and cracking them. And it finally registered, wow, you're not as smart as I thought they were. I could rough talk them a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a very long answer. But no, I never, ever, ever, ever could have fathomed 20-something years later to be inducted into the Hall. No.
And then what do you remember about your very first day in the studio after Mike hired you? You kind of touched on it, but what was like that first day like? Do you remember it?
Terrified. I had been look, the only times I had been on television was for some tournaments. You know, I had a couple different tournaments where I had a camera crew in the boat. And what's funny is, Panger, I was always more interested in messing with the camera guy than actually winning the event. I'm not saying that jokingly. And I remember the tournament. It was the one that it was Big Mama. It was that's so long ago. It was Marizo Shimizu
on a Table Rock?
On Gunnersville.
Okay.
Gunnersville, Big Mama, and I think Zell Rowland won that tournament. Lipless crankbait outside of Boat Dock, Seabold Creek. Gosh, I could remember. Anyway, so I remember going in and watching Tommy and got through it, and felt like I sucked, like I always feel. I always do. I feel I can't watch myself on TV. But I got done, and I came home, and I told Karen, I said, I can tell the kids, you know, because they were very young. I said, I can tell the kids that I commentated a Bassmaster tournament, and that was my dream. That was you know, your viewers, man. That's Monday Night Football, right? That's what Bassmasters always has been, at least to me. And it was the Pittsburgh Classic. Jerry and Mike asked if they could have a meeting with me. And now Bass Center and Loudmouth Bass was still going on at the time, because it had a 1-year run, and that was a bit of a train wreck to start television in. And so Jerry and Mike pulled me into a room, and Jerry said, I distinctly remember it. He said, "Would you consider taking my seat with Bassmaster?" You didn't have to ask me 2 times. You did not have to ask me 2 times.
Why do you think they ask you? Out of everybody that they could ask, a guy who did not have any TV experience, why you? In 2005?
Boy, that's a hell of a question. A really good question. I think Mike saw something. To me, one of the biggest keys of television is being yourself. Because I'm terrified at public speaking, but I'm terrified. That is the one thing about the Bass Fishing Hall of Fame that I'm mortified about. That is to get in front of people. I'm okay if somebody says, "Hey, we're on Fox, you know, main Fox, and there's a million people watching." I don't care. But if I've got to get in front of 7 elementary school children and talk about fishing, I'm dripping sweat. It's a very bizarre. Anyway, I think Mike knew quickly. I didn't know that what you see is what you got. To this day is just being yourself. The other thing, I do believe this is, I think I understand the game. I think I did then. And I can tell you, I do not think anybody consumed more Bassmaster or FLW shows throughout the 80s, 90s. When I tell you, Panger, I watched tournaments, I would burn out VHS cassettes, watching and rewatching and learning and consuming. I did not know that I was training myself to commentate the Bassmasters back then, but I was.
Wow. How much of an understanding do you think you have because your relationship with Kevin also, and getting inside that mind of not as much. Like it
No,
wasn't like you.
no. Kevin was Kevin and I did not hang. We did not really chill together. We knew each other,
Yeah, okay,
obviously.
I didn't.
If you're,
Yeah,
yeah, we knew each other. We knew each other. We competed against each other in some tournaments. But it was more of hey, what's up? But then Kevin had twins that were premature. We had twins 2 years
okay. So
after
this is
that.
all kind of
That is when Kevin, and that's when we got very, 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 very close. It's probably best we did not find each other before that.
neither.
I,
Course would have been changed.
yeah, I have gotten in trouble with Kevin Van Dam. I'm very confident in saying that we have pissed off Sherry and Karen multiple times, multiple holidays. There is no doubt in my mind of that. Yes.
Okay, and then I want to go to your first day of the TV show when you're like, dude, I'm doing a TV show, because dude, that's also a massive part of your career too, and for lack of a better term, your legacy is the TV show. Do you remember the first day where you're like, my God, we're actually filming a season of this, and there's other people that are like getting paid to film this? Like, what's going on here?
So,
like, what was that like?
So before it turned into Zona show, it was World. They called it. I remember. All right. So
I've been around. I was around for that, and then you had to
right.
rebrand it when it came in the whole thing, and you went around and asked everybody, "What should we name the show?" And
Yes. So what was very weird about that were two different things. A lot like the McInnes thing. ESPN called me into a room, and there was all these intelligent TV people that I thought at the time. And there was a girl sitting, a woman sitting there, very young, didn't fish. And she said, hey, we have an opportunity. We're going to name this show World's Greatest Fishing Show. And I started laughing. I said, oh, that's not pressure at all. And we'd like you to host it. And I said, okay. And she said, so she had a big PowerPoint presentation of here's how segment 1 is going to go, commercial break, segment 2, segment 3, segment 4. And we have a production crew for you, and we want you to start in the next couple of weeks. I said, I am not your guy. I'm not your guy. There's no way I'm doing that. And like the whole room, they cock their head like a dog does when it hears a weird sound. And I said, fishing cannot have a script. Fishing cannot have fishing is it's a puzzle. It's a constantly moving puzzle. And I said, if you try to script it, you're going to lose, and I'm not going to lose. And she goes, well, what would and I remember she got cross with me. She said, what would your concept be? And I said, can I see your piece of paper? And her piece of paper had the whole outline of the show. And I flipped it over, and it was a white piece of paper. And I said, that's my concept. And there was a dude across the table, and he said, go do it. And I thought, let's go, man, let's go. And that's how it happened. And what was funny was, so I did not know there was two ways to do a fishing show back then. It was pre-YouTube and influencer stuff like that. And the two ways to do it, you were a paid gun to come in and host the show, or you owned your own television show, which I was like, I like this paid gun thing until I realized it's way better to own your show, own your content. Because they would never sell me those shows. Those shows are in some like Raiders of the Lost Ark vault at ESPN. They never would sell me those shows. But that's how it started. And I remember, then I took ownership of the show 2 or 3 years after that, which was the best thing ever. That's when I went to JM to produce it, because Wintercom was, and I loved Randy White. Mm-hmm. He produces Major League Fishing. I love Randy.
He's been in it forever.
We've been it forever, and he looks like it. But that's how it started. Then I took it to JM to produce, because that's when it all came together of Bassmaster. It all needed to be in one house anyway, because it was almost like you felt. This is how I felt back then. Was you almost felt like, all right, I'm gonna be with JM for Bassmaster this week. Then I'm gonna go do Zona show with Wintercom. It was almost like a divorce where you're visiting mom or you're visiting dad, and it wasn't a healthy situation. So getting it all. And look, the other side is, to me, JM growing up, they were, you know, they were, are, and always will be. They're the premier, the apex of outdoor production.
So you weren't employed by Bass. You were employed when ESPN owned it, not Helen Sevier.
Correct. I was
So
under
you-
an ESPN contract. I was never, back then, I was never under a Bass contract. And what was funny was when Bass actually sold it
to the McInnes group, that the three,
the McInnes
Copeland,
group.
Logan, and Jerry.
ESPN actually came to me and asked if I would. Here's a great horrible business move. They actually came to me if I was interested in this show called College Game Day, and I turned that down.
Whoa! Let's take a deep breath here.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is back with, right when Herb Street was kind of getting into it and all that, and they were doing College Game Day, and they liked your presence in the ESPN outdoor block, because for those of you who don't remember, there was Loudmouth Bass. Was it Byron, you, and Jay Kumar?
Yes, and a fella named John Kernan, who came from the NASCAR world.
Yep, and it was a Sports Center style show that just did bass fishing. You had G-Man's Garage. You had all sorts of. There was an entire outdoor block that ESPN was trying to turn bass fishing into NASCAR, so to speak, to try to drive it and generate interest. And this is the era where you came in, where the personalities developed. This was your Skeet. Like Skeet Reese was a perfect example of someone who came up in that prospered in that era. That was the Mike Iaconelli with the flame shirts and the Nike Air stuff and the never give up. I remember going back and watching that show where Hackney was vying for the Angler of the Year, and he was just this dude in a tucked-in shirt. No one knew it. I mean, he wasn't the Hack Attack yet, but that was a very critical time in fishing where the personalities really popped, and then you were on board, and your job was to really you want to talk about growing the sport. At that time, it's on ESPN. I mean, you were coming on and learning how to do this at the most pivotal time with the most eyeballs and the most millions of dollars being pumped into the sport that there ever has been on an international level.
Yes. And it was, I didn't know any better. You know, you don't know at the time that it was such a pivotal time with FLW and Bass, and the payouts were big. And what's funny is you said Hackney, and that he was the first angler when I was on the road. He was the very first angler I met on the banks. We were doing some coverage at the Red River, and he was the first angler. Red River might have been Ouachita River, whatever it was. And it goes on, and he's one of my best friends I've ever had on planet Earth since then. So it's very bizarre how it's gone completely full circle.
I mean, when College Game Day took off, were you like, I'm glad I didn't do that? Or were you like, for a couple years, were you like, my God, what did I do?
I was very, very happy. But what's funny is, and not to be a name dropper, like I covered one bowl game, and I covered a quarterback. His name's Matt Stafford, and he was a freshman.
Really?
And he was a freshman in college at Georgia. And we were talking. He's like, you know a lot about ball? I'm like, I mean, I know a lot. I'm not good at it. But anyway, what's funny is so I turned that opportunity down. And I don't know, like, what's funny is it was a soft serve probably 2 or 3 different times if I was interested in what they wanted. What I asked, well, what's it entail? And it was more getting in the crowd and, you know, showing the tailgating and what goes on. And I don't think Panger, that's not a good recipe for me. That's not good. I know the outcome of that right there. But what's funny is that's back when Mike and Mike was huge on ESPN. Huge.
And they would have the classic on, and they would have fishermen on during that, because it was that mold. It's just like hockey with ESPN. If ESPN owns a part of hockey, it's in Sports Center. They're showing the highlights. They got if ESPN doesn't own hockey, they treat it like cricket.
To this, and what's funny, you're right. You're absolutely right. What's funny to this day is Golick, and we still fish together and, you know, have a beer together. As he said, we would sit in the cafeteria and see you doing Bassmaster or see your television show and be like, right on, man. He told the man I ain't taking the job. And Golick said this. He goes, probably a horrible business move, but gosh, I got a lot of respect for you doing that. So very cool. It's very cool. And Panger, I look back on it now, and it was, look, man, that at the end of every at the end of everything of I've thought about my career and all the way back to when I was a little kid. All you have is memories. All you have is memories in the fishing world. I mean, that's why we fish.
You're never going to make it through your speech.
You're right. You're spot on. All you have, that's why we fish and that's why we hunt, is for memories. And I can say the last 21 years have been the most. They've been the most. Look, a lot of ups and downs, and you deal with the best fishermen on earth, and a lot of the best fishermen on earth. They're a handful. But I will tell you, from the Bassmaster and Zona show, they are the most kick-ass memories. I wish my mom could have seen it. I really mean that. That's the one thing I've thought about this week, like wondering, is she watching? Because she's the one that pushed me to always. She would always say, "I don't care what you do, but you've got to be the best. Try to be the best at what you do." Because I never thought I was the best at anything, but I learned that from her, and I wish she could have seen this. But the memories have just been so. To everybody that I've worked with, I'm so lucky to. It's been awesome.
Yeah, gonna be like Wayne Gretzky when we got traded from Edmonton. Remember that press conference? He couldn't get through it. He made it like 3 lines through. That had to.
Oh, I will. I'll break. And I know I'll snap, and it'll be when I look at Karen and my kids and my father. I will break. We've had some tragedy in the family the last 3 years, and this news was it was just something like of hope and happiness. So,
all right. I know you have to go because we slid this in. If you have 5 more minutes, I just want to rapid fire some recent questions. We'll bring it back around. I also want to mention that the Bass Fishing Hall of Fame banquet is available. There is seating for the public for that event. I meet people every year who go, "Hey, we come here. You talk about the legends that are there. You can go to bassfishinghof.com. They'll have information to get your tickets. If you want to come to Wonders of Wildlife, Johnny's Coliseum in Springfield, Missouri, go to the #1 aquarium in the world and watch Z and the other 4 anglers, all deserving, get inducted. Like, that should be a bucket list thing that you guys can. You could hang out. And Z told me he would do a shot with every fan that attended with him before his speech. Before his speech. So
I will tell you, I did keep one thing. And it was Johnny Morris texted me. I was like, I don't know if he's allowed to do this, but it was like, yeah, he can do this. It's Johnny Morris. But he texted me. He said, "Hey, I want you to know I voted for you in the Hall of Fame," and I kept that screenshot of that text because
nice.
I was like, wow, Johnny Morris voted for me the best. That's just awesome.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Oh my gosh, it makes that's as cool as it gets. But I've given him a lot of money since I was a little boy.
Yeah, I think we all have.
Anyway,
he's giving you a fair share. I open up that Bass Pro Shops catalog still.
Taking good care of the family.
I see the commercials. Right. All right. I don't know what these questions are because I haven't written them down, but we'll see if I can just rapid fire them. And we'll just do real quick. One tournament in 2024, initial impressions, Toledo Bend.
I hope there's some diversity to come this next week on Lake Fork. But the one thing that we have learned the last few years, you being one of the anglers, obviously you fish the opens, the one thing that we have learned, there are way more, this is my takeaway, there are way more bass on these heavily popular pressured lakes that live offshore, I think, than we knew that with smallmouth. We've known that with spotted bass, but I don't think outside of herring lakes we comprehended just how many big bass are born and live and stay out deep. There's my initial impression.
Two anglers, real quick initial impression on him. Jordan Lee returning to the Elite Series with the top 10.
Good for Jordan. It was not. It was really. It was nice to. I do my post weigh-in phone calls. Whoever's going to have a Bassmaster Live, and I could tell Jordan was genuinely happy. Jordan's a 5 bass limit dude. Obviously, is pretty good at that as well. But it's good to have Jordan back. I was bummed when Jordan left because I think he probably would be barking on the door of 4 or 5 classics had he not left. So,
in your Hall of Fame career, have you ever seen an entrance to the top level of professional bass fishing like Ben Milliken over the past 13 months?
Oh no. Ben's a one of those hybrids. Ben's a 1 in a million. And the other thing about it is as many follow. I said this on Bassmaster Live. In short notes, no, I've not. But the other thing is Ben, with what he does, whether it's television, you're going to have fans and you're going to have haters. And a lot of people thought he was going to trip and stumble and fall on his face in the opens. That did not happen. A lot of people thought that would happen the first Elite Series tournament. That did not happen. Ben is the real deal. And I enjoyed calling that tournament because he doesn't look or act like your stereotypical rookie.
What is left on the to-do list for you professionally?
I'm going to fish full time. I'm joking. I am absolutely. Karen is sitting over there. In all honesty, the to-do list for me is going to be one of these days coming to fish again without cameras. I know that day's coming. Mm-hmm. I don't know when that day is, whether it's Bassmaster or Zona show. But I really am. I'm genuinely looking forward to. I love my job. But I also know my job will come to an end, and I actually look forward. Really, I mean, dude, I'm a that Pinger. When I'm not doing Bassmaster, I am on a boat. I don't know how I'm not on one at 65 degrees in Michigan.
Yeah, for real,
right
it's
now.
90 here.
Right. But I do. I look forward to packing the truck and the boat kind of the way I used to, and picking my kids up and just going bassing. Like I really, really, really look forward to that because, again, I'm certainly not bitching. I've not been able to do that a lot. So I guess that's my next to-do list for sure.
All right. Last question, then I have a bonus question, and then I'll let you go in 2 seconds.
Absolutely.
What are you going to put in your display at the Bass Fishing Hall of Fame? Because you're very multifaceted here, and you get a little square, but that's what your Hall of Fame is when anybody walks through that, and what you are going to be representative. Has anything crossed your mind where you're like, that's going in it?
I will put the very first smallmouth bass that I caught. We got it mounted. It was like 16 inches, and I have it in my barn. But that fish changed the course. That fish changed the course of my life. I remember there was three bullies. I caught that fish under a bridge on a three hook rubber worm with a split shot, and I remember them making fun of me before I caught it, and they were making fun. They were giving it to me. They were older than me. Some of them might have been relatives of mine, and they were giving me the business. And I caught that bass, and I remember all of them cheering, and that bass changed the course of my life. So I would say that fish will be somewhere in that. If it's only that big, but now that bass is immense. What it did to my life.
Last question, and it's actually a viewer question because I know you're all about fans and viewers. Aaron H. asked this 30 minutes ago, but I wanted to save it for last. And he wants to know, does this Hall of Fame designation make up for the Oscar snub in bait shop?
Oh my God.
Bait shop. And is all right in the world now.
Hey, listen. This is no joke. Bait Shop is possibly the worst cinematic presentation in the history of movies. I'm very aware, and they actually still air it because I'll get drunk text.
It's on all the time. Do you still get paid for that?
Listen, this is no joke. I did not want to do it. I was with Randy White. I was in Florida, and ESPN told me you've got to go there. So I go there and I do it, and I actually got pissed off, and we left. And they still had stuff to do. I'm like, dude, I'm going to Okeechobee. I'm going fishing. And until I had to sign get in a thing called an Actors Guild. I didn't know what that meant at the time. Panger, I'm not kidding. I was getting $800 checks every couple months for like a couple years, and I'm like, Bait Shop is the best thing on planet Earth ever. So.
It seriously though, like you want to talk about like something cool that just like adds to the whole story. Like, dude, like that's part of your story, man. That's a cult legend.
I got to hang with Billy Ray Cyrus. There's not many people can say that. Will
he be at the Hall of Fame induction?
I don't foresee that he will, but I think we're gonna have some. I got some pretty cool friends that I fished with that I think are going to show up to that induction. That I think a lot of folks will know who they are. They're good at football.
Wow. Yeah. Like I said, I greatly appreciate you taking the time to do this. I know you're fresh off of the Elite Series stop on Toledo Bend. You're just got off a plane headed. So that's why we did a noon show. Well worth it. Ran it through so we could get a full 47 minutes with you. Even went 7 minutes extra. Then we'll run breaks. We'll come back and I'll just spew some stuff about stuff. But well, I don't know what direction I want to go in just because it's a new era, and it was very apparent that it's a new era, and it was not just on the Elite Series; it was across the board. So I'm not asking you to get into that. I was just teasing the next segment after we let you go hang out.
I will tell you, and I mean this: all the viewers of Bass Zone throughout the many years, you and Jeffries have always been a massive, and this is not BS. You guys have been a massive support for so many years, but most of all, your viewers, because I know a lot of your viewers bleed over to Bass and Zona World. I mean this sincerely from the bottom. Thank you. Thank you,
Zona. A year ago this week, you were on the show. You pulled over on the side of the road to talk about Kevin Van Dam's announcement for his retirement, and now a year later you're out here talking about getting inducted into the Bass Fishing Hall of Fame. It's a heck of a 12 months.
So weird. It is. But thank you. I know you've been on that board. It one of the coolest things to ever happen in my entire life, and very happy for my team because they're the best.
Thank you, Z.
Thanks, man.
See ya. All right, that is the one and only Mark Zona. And like I said, you guys can head over to bassfishinghof.com, read the press release. When we come back, we'll talk about what we have going on for the rest of the week. Speaking of the Hall of Fame, we got a really cool show lined up for tomorrow, but we'll talk about that when we come back. It is BTL on a Tuesday, BTL at lunch. We'll be back right after this.
Yes.
Fishing isn't just a hobby, it's an obsession. Whether it's blazing hot or bitterly cold, bright sunshine, raining, or even snowing, someplace, somewhere, there's a fish that's ready to bite. And as the angler, you need baits that will catch the fish anywhere, anytime, no matter the conditions. From throwing topwaters to cranking the depths, know the baits to throw. Choose Spro.
The new Puma STS has been redesigned from the ground up. With the angler, design, function, and performance in mind, nothing on this new offering was compromised, and the only thing carried over from the previous version is the name. Based on the Soft Touch series hull that started with the flagship Jaguar, this new model is nimble and performs incredibly well at all speeds with either a 250 or 300 horsepower engine. Featuring a new 96-inch wide-body footprint, This hull measures out at 20 foot 7 inches in length. Industry-leading design coupled with tournament-winning performance. The Puma STS from Basscat. Feel the rush.
Everything you need, one legendary brand. Top on the hunt, Strike King.
Any fish, anyone.
Get the best patterns backed by tournament data. Start by finding the best 10% of your lake. Know exactly what to look for and what to throw. After that, just put them in the boat. Try the Deep Dive app today.
Look at that beast right there. My Pro Guide batteries keep me going on those long tournament days and long practice days. Always plenty of juice, never fail. The best part about Pro Guide batteries, it's the people behind the company. They have over 40 years experience in the battery business, keeping all of us fishermen out on the water longer, catching more fish. Check them out at ProGuideBatteries.com.
Have you considered purchasing new electronics for your rig? The type of mounts you choose to protect your investment should be part of the decision-making process. No matter if you prefer 1, 2, or 3 graphs up front, Beatdown Outdoors has a solution for you. Adjustable, versatile, rigid, and made in the USA. What's your ultimate electronic setup? Check out the full selection of Beatdown Outdoors products by visiting beatdownoutdoors.com. All right, welcome back, BTL on Tuesday. Excited, actually, for the next 24 to 48 hours. Immediately after the show, I am headed to the Bass Tank, get a few additions to the cat. Actually, one main addition, keyword perspective there. So, but tomorrow, really cool show. So the Bass Fishing Hall of Fame had an auction last fall where you could bid on trips and items and things like that. And one of them was a BTL show. So Clyde Glenn from down in Texas, I've been talking with him on the phone, tournament fisherman, actually pretty good tournament fisherman too, but he is going to come up and co-host BTL tomorrow, sitting right across from me. We are going to do the show at 8:30 a.m. and then we are going to jump in the cat and head and go long pole some giant crappie. But I said, hey man, who do you want to have on as the guest? Because we'll talk to him because he's kind of in depth in some team tournament stuff, and I'm interested in how that is going down in Texas. And he's like, man, it'd be awesome to have Brandon Belt on, Major League ball player, jumped into the tackle business with Brian Robinson. We've had on the show, who is a former Vikings player. So he also has a team series that is going on in Texas that has really good payouts, really good schedule. A lot of the guys that I've talked to down there said it's an incredibly well run team series. So I got a hold of Brian, who got me in touch with Brandon Belt. So Brandon Belt will be on the show tomorrow to talk about the team series down there, what's going on in Texas, and why a Major League ball player want to spend so much time and effort in the fishing arena. And then at the end of the show tomorrow, Johnny Schultz from the Deep Dive app and Fish the Moment will be on. I really thought it was really cool what he did last week on the show, breaking down how and where it would go down on Toledo Bend. It was interesting. We kind of put a caveat on that saying, hey, there's not enough data to talk about Demiki rigging and things like that offshore, but the areas of the lake and that type of stuff is exactly how it went down. So he's going to break down Lake Fork tomorrow at the end of the show. And then Thursday, we have a live show from Uncle Frank, and then I'm headed to Santee Cooper for the third stop in the Bassmaster Opens. over the week, and I didn't get a chance to talk a lot about this yesterday because I was at Omnia with Trevor Lowe, did a live show up at Omnia. One of the cool things that I also didn't really get to talk about was when we went up for that Dick Hiley St. Jude Bass Classic fundraiser, had a day in between, and Adam Bartuzek, who ice fishes up there, was like, "You want to catch a burbot or an eel pout?" And I was like, "Yeah, new species, never caught one before." But there's no ice in central Minnesota right now. I mean, there is, it's just awful, and there's some lakes that are opening up. So we ended up driving up north, and he had a buddy who was on a burbot bite, and I caught a burbot in 30 foot of water, and it was cool. I got a picture of it up on my Instagram. But man, everybody up there fishes, is really savvy. It was a cool kind of a one-off experience that I don't think I'll ever get a chance to do again. So that was really neat. But yeah, it's 3 tournaments, and outside of the Rayburn Toyota series, which A-Rig was a big player in that, it was very interesting to see how many spinning rods were on the front deck of the boats in stained water, in off-colored water, in shallow water, in deep water. And I will say, one of the things that I am excited about, and that I thought Bass did a really good job of, and I don't think Bass got enough credit for this, this is not controversial to me. This is just fact, because they have to put out the best, most entertaining product, regardless of whether you have 10 guys Demiki rigging, regardless of whether you have 10 guys throwing a spinner bait, 10 guys jerk baiting, 10 guys deep cranking. I thought that the Bassmaster team, and you could tell they've had to have meetings about this. Like, all right, this is going to be a predominant pattern, just like they would with anything else. Now let's go in and find the intricacies of it. What makes Vegeta, what makes Patrick Walters, what makes these guys better than a lot of the other guys? What are the intricate changes? How can we show the skill that is involved in this? Because in all honesty, if there wasn't skill involved in it and you just get the unit, and then everyone would basically end up tied. But I thought Bass did a really good job of making that entertaining. I watched a lot of it. I also watched a lot of the Major League Fishing product, which was good as well. I had a vested interest in that heading to the Open next week. But I thought that the Rick Clun segments and what Bass has done with the 50th year, with so many of the guys that are running the logo on it, and then they're running the features, the videos with Rick during the live broadcast. I thought it was brilliant for Bass in that first event to put the launch and the live feed on YouTube. I thought that was awesome. It had good viewer content. So all in all, I thought it was a really great week of entertaining live coverage of professional bass fishing. And then you can go over to the BPT and you see the dynamic of the weights zeroing, where you have Justin Lucas, who has just an incredible career day with like 5 for 36 or 37, who ends up only catching 1 or 2 fish on the second day after it's zeroed. And then the strategy of the guys where the average fish was 3 3/4 pounds. And then you've got Rojas, who was in the lead for a lot of the day, and then kept pace with Jacob Wheeler, who I believe got a 7th MLF victory this week. But Rojas was playing the game with buck bass and smaller fish, while the other guys were taking big chunks out with bigger fish. That was truly a mixed bag that I like to see, where you had shallow Demiki rig fish, you had chatterbait fish, you had Nico fish, you had crankbait fish, spinnerbait fish. Zach Burge was on there catching one on a buzzbait. So I thought it was a great week of coverage. And I'm looking forward to Lake Fork to see how that one shakes out. So I did just film with Andrew Upshaw for the Open Pros Pick'em. That show will be on his channel today. And then, like I said, Clyde Glenn in studio tomorrow with me, co-hosting BTL. Brandon Belt talking about, I think it's called The Show series that he has on BTL, and then Frank on Thursday. So big shout out to Mark Zona. It was a pain in the butt for him to take the time to do that, and I greatly appreciate it. And as well-deserved induction into the 2024 class of the Bass Fishing Hall of Fame. All right, that's all we got for today. I got the boat hooked up outside. I'm headed to see the mad scientist Scott Palmer at the Bass Tank. We'll be here bright and early, 8:30 a.m. tomorrow morning. See ya.